To ensure success in the rude test of conflict, it is not sufficient to have a mass composed of valiant men. The mass needs, and we give it, leaders who have firmness and decision of command proceeding from habit and an entire faith in their unquestionable right to command as established by tradition, law, and society. So it's like step number one, you need good leadership. Step number one, you need good leadership. A bunch of valiant men is not going to be enough. You need good leadership, step number one. Step number two, we add good arms. We add methods of fighting suitable to these arms and those of the enemy, and which do not overtax the physical and moral forces of man. So you got to give them good weapons, and the weapons have got to be easy to use and suitable for the enemy that you're going against. Next, we add also a rational decentralization that permits the direction and employment of the efforts of all, even to the last man. So we have decentralized command. I believe Leif and I wrote about that.
Yep.
It's one of the fundamental principles of combat leadership. Next, we animate with passion a violent desire for independence, a religious fanaticism, national pride, a love of glory, a madness for possession, an iron discipline which permits no one to escape action, secures the greatest unity from top to bottom between all elements, between the commanding officers and the men, and between the soldiers. So those are a series of things that you can have that can fuel this, right? A passion, a violent desire for independence, religious fanaticism. These are things that people fight for. National pride, a love of glory, a madness for possession. Think about that. You need one of those elements. Have we then a solid army? Not yet. Unity, the first and supreme force of armies, is sought by enacting severe laws of discipline supported by powerful passions. But to order discipline is not enough. A vigilance from which no one may escape in combat should assure the maintenance of discipline. Discipline itself depends on moral pressure, which actuates men to advance from sentiments of fear or pride. But it depends also on surveillance, the mutual supervision of groups of men who know each other well. You got to have relationships. And then the relationship has to have inherent in it this attitude of like, Echo, if I see you slacking, I'm going to call you out on it. Hey, bro, we don't do that here. That's not how we roll. You need to get your game on. And that's, you get this mutual supervision of each other based on pride. Back to the book. A wise organization ensures that the personnel of combat groups changes as little as possible, so that comrades in peacetime maneuvers shall be comrades in war. From living together and obeying the same chiefs, from commanding the same men, from sharing fatigue and rest, from cooperation among men who quickly understand each other in the execution of warlike movements, may be bred brotherhood, professional knowledge, sentiment, and above all, unity. So, what are we talking about there? You're building this strong bond between the people that are inside this unit. That's what you want to do. And how do you do it? You train them hard. They live together. They work together. They listen to the same boss. They command the same people. That's what you do. And that's when you look at, military units, that's what makes them good. You go through that. You go through that hard training. You get to know your people. You build those relationships. The duty of obedience, the right of imposing discipline, and the impossibility of escaping from it would naturally follow. And now confidence appears. And you know what this sounds like? It sounds like a gang. And I've often said about Task Unit Bruiser that I was in charge of a gang.
An awesome gang.
An awesome gang that did good things for the world, but they were a gang. Gang mentality for sure. You didn't want to get called out by the gang. You just didn't want that to happen. Yeah. When someone was messing up, when someone was doing the wrong thing, someone was cutting corners, Task Unit Bruiser wasn't going to be, they were going to be on you. Yeah. They were going to be on you. I never had to say anything. Guys, I didn't even barely see it. But I'd hear about it. Hey, this guy was doing this, and so we tightened him up. Oh, okay, cool. Good to go. Good to go. Back to the book. Then we have an army. It is no longer difficult to explain how men carried away by passions, even men who know how to die without flinching, without turning pale, really strong in the presence of death, but without discipline, without solid organization, are vanquished by others individually less valiant, but firmly, jointly, and severely combined. So, you know where you see this in the business world? You see this in the business world where you meet people in the business world that are really passionate about what they're doing. They're really passionate. They're really into it. They've created something. They're really into it. They want to succeed. They're busting their ass. They're really passionate about it, but they don't have the discipline. And if you don't have the discipline, the passion is not enough. You have to have the discipline too. And I'll tell you this, with the passion, the discipline without the passion is also equally weak. Maybe not as weak, but it's equally weak. It's close.
Yeah, we'll say close.